This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a sci-fi horror film called Hollow Man 2. This movie's script is based on the original draft of the first film. Like the original, this film shows how the power of invisibility can be misused. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Some people think that invisibility would be a nice superpower to have. The anonymity that it would provide to those who wield such power eliminates some consequences of mistakes or even wrongdoings, so it's not surprising that there are people who imagine many different ways to abuse it. The antagonist of this film doesn't have any moral compunctions about abusing his invisibility. The power also seems to amplify his bad qualities, which makes him even more dangerous. Even with the military pursuing him, he still has all the advantages, so the protagonists will have to find his vulnerabilities to stop him. During a cocktail party at the Reisner Institute, an intoxicated Dr. Devin Villiers tries mingling with other guests, but he is suddenly pushed and dragged all over the room by an invisible force. After gathering his composure, he throws a drink into the air to catch sight of the unseen force attacking him, but the liquor only splashes on the guests. Devin leaves the ballroom only to be attacked again and forcibly taken to the bathroom. Inside, the unseen attacker threatens to throw Devin out of the window to compel him to reveal the location of a substance he calls the buffer because his condition is getting worse. Devin tells him that it is in a locked vault and the only person who can produce it is Maggie Dalton. The invisible assailant instructs Devin not to tell anyone about the incident, so he agrees. As soon as Devin sees the bathroom door closing, he pulls out his cell phone and dials a number. The invisible man suddenly grabs the phone and smashes it on the ground. He then takes a broken piece and uses it to slash Devin's neck. This scene indicates that the invisible man is motivated by survival, and he is becoming desperate. He still wants to remain hidden, but he doesn't have the patience to plan his actions and be more discreet. Killing Devin only brought the invisible man some time to remain hidden because the murder would launch an investigation that would probably point to him. Devin's role in the invisible man's predicament is not explicitly stated, but the scene suggests that it was significant enough for the suspect to target him. However, the murder isn't probably motivated by revenge, because he seemed like he was willing to let Devin live if he hadn't attempted to use his phone. Detectives Lisa Martinez and Frank Turner soon arrive at the scene to investigate Devin's death, but Dr. William Reisner and the military soon arrive to tell them that they'll be taking over the case. At the police station, Captain Harrison tells Lisa and Frank that there's nothing he can do about the case, but Reisner has asked them to look after Maggie because she could be in danger. Later, the two detectives meet with Maggie at her house. After inspecting the rooms, Frank asks Maggie what she was working on, but she stresses that she's under a non-disclosure agreement, so she can't talk about it. As they stand guard outside the house, Lisa engages Frank in small talk through the radio to ease their boredom. In the house across the street, a young couple prepares to take a video of their lovemaking with a camera set to night vision mode. Unbeknownst to them, the invisible man is standing by the window to watch Maggie's house. When the girl starts filming her boyfriend, she is shocked to see someone else in the room when she tilts the camera. Her boyfriend assures her that they're alone, but she sees the figure on the camera again. The invisible man decides to leave the room and go outside. The invisible man had a perfect opportunity to be mischievous, but he left the young couple unharmed. This, however, doesn't imply that he's conscientious. He might have already grown tired of seeing other people undressing in front of him. Another reason could be his concern for the worsening condition. It probably prevents him from reveling in things that he might otherwise find enjoyable. With his time running out, he can't let distractions interrupt him from pursuing treatment for his condition. Maggie hears her younger sister, Heather, arriving, so she goes downstairs to tell her that she can't spend time with her. Before leaving, Heather asks Lisa to take good care of Maggie. As Heather walks to her motorcycle, she senses someone on the lawn, but she eventually ignores it and drives away. Lisa sees Maggie's cat walking around, so she takes it inside the house. When Lisa goes upstairs to check on Maggie, she notices footprints on the carpet. As Lisa carefully walks towards Maggie's room, the Invisible Man hits her with a lamp. Frank hears Lisa struggling through the radio, so he rushes towards the house. By the time he arrives, Lisa no longer has a pulse. Frank and Maggie try performing CPR on her, but Maggie realizes that she can no longer be revived. Not long, an armed group of military personnel storms the house to track down the Invisible Man. Maggie calls out to Frank as the Invisible Man drags her to the study room. Frank hears the man's voice outside the door, but he sees no one when he breaks into the room. As Frank looks around for the man, the unseen assailant suddenly pushes Frank out of the way to escape from the room. When Frank gets outside, he confronts Colonel Gavin Bishop, because he realized that the military used them to lure the suspect. Bishop urges that their tactics were necessary and tells him to clear out. The Invisible Man throws several stun grenades at the soldiers to prevent them from detecting him with their sensors. Frank and Maggie use the opportunity to escape, unaware that the Invisible Man is following them. Bishop's willingness to use the detectives as bait shows that he's vicious and possibly corrupt. Frank probably escaped because he couldn't trust Bishop to keep Maggie safe. Since the Invisible Man is after Maggie, Bishop might also sacrifice her to capture the suspect. The film still does not reveal the identity of the Invisible Man, but the operation hints that he was part of a government experiment. His ability to outmaneuver the soldiers suggests that he was military. Upon reaching a secluded alley, Frank asks Maggie about the assailant, but she claims that she doesn't know anything and she's also trying to make sense of the situation. She begs Frank not to take her to the police station because the Invisible Man will know she's there, but Frank ignores her plea. As they walk through a crowded street, the Invisible Man starts pushing his way through the crowd to catch up to them. When Frank and Maggie cross the street, the Invisible Man tries to follow, but a speeding car hits him. The man's wounds become perceptible, so he goes to his apartment and injects himself with an unknown substance that turns him invisible again. When Frank and Maggie arrive at the police station, Harrison informs them that they'll have to hand over Maggie to the feds. As the officers prepare to take her to a holding cell, Frank advises her to go to the bathroom first because the toilet inside is dirty. Frank leads her to the bathroom, but he covers her with the door to allow her to escape. After waiting outside the bathroom for a while, Frank leaves to meet with Maggie downstairs. The Invisible Man follows them as they find a way out of the building, but he can't catch up. Frank could have allowed the military to take Maggie, but he is now driven to find out what the case is all about because of his partner's death. He would have fewer chances of learning who killed his partner if he left Maggie behind. It's unclear why Maggie refuses to tell Frank anything about the Invisible Man, since it's unlikely that she doesn't know anything. The non-disclosure agreement wouldn't be enough of a reason, since her life is now on the line. Frank has already risked his job to help her, so he's unlikely going to stop until he uncovers the truth. As they drive away, Frank demands to know the whole story and threatens to take Maggie back to the station if she doesn't talk. When they start hearing sirens, Maggie agrees to tell him everything, so they leave the car before the cops can reach them. Meanwhile, Reisner warns Bishop that their careers would end if Dalton talks, so Bishop disseminates Frank's picture over the internet and TV stations and declares him a fugitive. After Frank steals another vehicle, Maggie starts recounting the events that led to their current predicament. She recalls that a team of molecular biologists discovered a way to make humans invisible 5 years ago, but the program soon ended because most of the team members were killed. However, an operation continued a year later under the codename Silent Night, with the goal of creating an undetectable soldier. Maggie notes that she became part of the program to find a way to eliminate the critical side effects of the invisibility serum. Maggie explains that she made a compound called the Buffer to keep a subject named Michael Griffin alive. Before he volunteered, Michael was part of a special forces unit that served in Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq. Minutes before the procedure, Michael grabbed Maggie's hand to thank her for the opportunity to be the test subject. After Devin injects him with the serum, Michael starts struggling in his seat as his body starts to become invisible. Maggie narrates that Michael supposedly died a few days later after receiving the Buffer. She blamed herself because she thought her Buffer failed, but she now knows that they never injected Michael with the compound. Michael had been a very willing test subject, so he probably believed from the start that the Buffer would keep him from experiencing the side effects. The military's betrayal is the most likely reason that he went rogue. Bishop might have refrained from giving him the buffer so he could easily cover up his tracks when Michael dies. He had failed to take into account that Michael would still live long enough to do a lot of damage while finding treatment for his condition. Now, the only thing that keeps Michael from divulging Bishop's secret is his desire to remain hidden. When Maggie checks her cell phone, she finds a message warning her about the Reisner Institute and telling her to meet at an address in Ludlow. Maggie asks Frank to drive to Oregon because she thinks Michael would never find them there. She notes that Michael is only about a month away from dying if he doesn't get the buffer. However, Frank wants to catch Michael because he wants justice for his partner. Maggie shows Frank the message she just received, so he decides to meet the sender to find out what he knows. Michael stops by the Reisner Institute to find Bishop, who is in the process of tracking down the number that sent the message to Maggie. As Bishop talks to an agent on the phone, Michael suddenly cuts off the line and attacks him. Michael asks him about Maggie's location, but Bishop asserts that Michael doesn't need to track her down because he has the buffer. Michael stresses that he can't trust Bishop because he allowed the Institute to destroy him. Bishop reminds him that he saved Michael from being court-martialed for war crimes, but Michael contends that he only did it to turn him into a guinea pig. Bishop stabs Michael with a pen, which causes his veins to be visible. Bishop grabs his gun and loads it, but Michael vanishes before he can aim it. Michael suddenly attacks him and pushes him down to the table, then stabs Bishop in the eye. He then learns about Maggie's location from Bishop's computer. This scene reveals that Michael had been murderous and uncontrollable even before the experiment. Bishop probably chose him because of these very qualities to carry out their morally questionable operations. Even though Michael was very willing to take part in the experiment, he felt bitter about being used as a test subject because of the unexpected result. It would have been foolish for Michael to take the chance and see if Bishop really had the buffer because he's only interested in saving his own skin. To do that, he has to eliminate Michael. Michael immediately heads to Ludlow, where Maggie and Frank are already looking for the message sender. Inside the building, Frank breaks a few bottles to keep Michael from following them undetected. Soon, the sender, Timothy Laurent, emerges and reveals that he was one of the 3 subjects. The first one died after 8 days. Although he survived, his organs are now failing, and he has a total intolerance to light. Timothy reveals that the program was not about national security, but an operation to get rid of political opponents. Michael had killed a senator, a Ninth Circuit judge, and a retired CIA operations chief. Timothy further notes that Michael has been killing regular people in the last 2 weeks. Frank thinks Michael is covering up his agenda, but Timothy believes that killing ordinary people is Michael's true intention. Frank hears someone arriving, so they look for the fire escape to leave the building. He tells Maggie to go ahead as he tries to hold Michael back. When Michael attacks him, Timothy shows up and hits him with a metal bar. However, Michael quickly recovers and kills Timothy by snapping his neck. Frank leaves the building and finds Maggie in a dark alley. After driving for a while, Frank tells Maggie to take a bus and go to a place where Michael can't find her, but Maggie says she wants to tell the media the truth. Maggie calls Heather to tell her she's doing fine, but she learns that Michael has taken her sister hostage. Michael asks her to be at the train station alone in a few hours. Maggie and Frank already learned that Michael is ruthless, so they know that he would not hesitate to kill Heather if they didn't comply. The military already has trouble tracking Michael down, even with his failing health. If he gets the buffer, they would have a harder time catching him. His killing spree would also make it more difficult for the military to cover up their illegal operations. Maggie was hoping that Michael would die in a month without the buffer, but he has proven that he only needs a short amount of time to commit desperate acts and compel people to give it to him. When they arrive, Frank keeps his distance while Maggie looks for Heather. Frank sees a camera with night vision on a display rack, so he uses it to see if Michael is already there. On the TV, a news anchor announces that Frank is considered armed and dangerous, so Frank has no choice but to stay out of sight. Heather soon emerges without any signs of Michael. However, Michael grabs Maggie while several people are blocking Frank's view. Michael takes Maggie to a dressing room and tries to inject her with a serum, but Frank finds them before he can do so. Maggie runs out of the clothing store, but Michael manages to grab her. She screams for help as she's being dragged away, but no one comes to her aid. Inside the station, the cops arrive to arrest Frank, so he runs back to the clothing store. When he finds the serum on the floor, he strips his clothes off and hesitantly injects himself with the substance. Outside the station, Reisner arrives with the military to keep the police from getting Frank and Maggie first. Reisner uses his scanner and spots an invisible figure running on the streets, so he runs after him, but the man subdues him and takes his gun. When the invisible man threatens to kill him, Reisner begs for his life and promises to give him the buffer. When he addresses the unseen figure as Michael, the man corrects him. Reisner figures out that he's Frank and becomes confident that he won't shoot him. Frank keeps pointing the gun at Reisner and watches him back away to the streets until he's hit by a car. Reisner believed that Frank still had a strong sense of morality, unlike Michael. However, Frank's standards had probably diminished since he lost his partner. Reisner's role in the experiment and the operations probably compelled Frank to skip the justice system and allow him to get hit by a car. It seems that Frank's faith in the justice system had slowly eroded after finding out that the military used them as bait. He had forsaken his duty as a cop when he helped Maggie escape. Now, he seems to have crossed the point of no return when he injected himself with the invisibility serum. Maggie ends up in her old college laboratory with Michael to create the buffer. By that time, Michael had become very sensitive to light, so he gave him clothes for burn victims to protect his skin. As she prepares to inject Michael, he tells her to inject half of it into her own body before giving the rest to him. But soon after she injects Michael, he starts strangling her. Maggie sprays his eyes with paint and tries to find her way out of the building. Michael runs after her, but an invisible Frank suddenly knocks him down. As Michael looks around for his assailant, Frank hits him with a fire extinguisher and pushes him out of the window. When Frank gets outside, he finds nothing but Michael's clothes on the ground. Maggie sees Michael's figure in the rain as he walks toward Frank, so she tries to warn him. However, Michael hits Frank with a metal pipe when he turns around. Maggie can't recognize either of the two invisible men as they continue to fight in the rain. Michael gains the upper hand and locks Frank's head with the pipe. When Frank breaks away, Michael knocks him down with a kick. Michael turns his attention back to Maggie, but he slowly becomes visible and drops to the ground before he can reach her. Maggie reveals that the substance she injected on both of them was rat poison. Michael grabs a shovel as Maggie starts bleeding from her nose and falls to the ground. Before Michael could lay his hands on her, Frank recovers and stops him. After knocking Michael down, Frank plunges the shovel against Michael's body. Maggie took the risk of injecting herself with poison because she felt that stopping Michael was more important than her life. As expected, Michael couldn't keep himself from killing people even after getting what he thought was the buffer. He had little reason to kill Maggie because she's unlikely to pursue him. He had been bloodthirsty even before the experiment, but his invisibility surely exacerbated his killer instincts. Frank isn't likely to become a killer like him under normal circumstances, but he could be tempted if he runs into more people like Michael, Reisner, and Bishop. Frank lifts Maggie in his arms and leaves Michael behind. When Maggie wakes up in the hospital one day, Heather informs her that there's still no sign of Frank. Maggie tells her not to worry because Frank will eventually reach out to her. Outside the hospital, an invisible Frank stares at Maggie's window for a moment and walks away. The military had withheld the buffer from Michael as a precautionary measure in case he defied their orders. This had only put him into survival mode, which made him even more dangerous. Reisner and Bishop took great pains to cover up their tracks, but their efforts ironically led to their own demise. They created a killing machine when they made Michael invisible, but they had no means of controlling him. Michael couldn't stop killing because he was too intoxicated by the power of invisibility. The only one that ultimately stopped him was another invisible man.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.